Fresh and Buds.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Fresh and Buds. I'm your host, Tommy Fresh. You can call me Tom. We got a pretty cool episode for you this week. We're going to be joined by none other than Garbage Andy, aka Trash Andrew. He is a Twitch streamer who likes to do a lot of magic stuff, and he's recently gotten into Flesh and Blood. So I reached out to him, see if he wanted to get on in on the podcast, and he said absolutely. So we're gonna have him, but I wanted to record a little bit ahead of time because we're on a tight schedule today. I'm going away tomorrow, and I want to make sure everybody gets the content up in the perfect amount of time. First we're gonna do Crack a Pack. Then I want to talk a little bit about Chain getting banned. Then we'll get into Andy joining us, and then we're gonna have a lot of fun. But let's get this Crack a Pack going. I don't have my Tales of Aria stuff yet. I got the notification that my boxes are shipped, so they'll be coming this weekend. So I'll have them for next week, which is awesome. I'm really excited. Something to mention about that: I am doing a content creator tournament, sealed tournament around it. It's called I think called Creators of Aria. I posted it on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/freshbudspod @freshbudspod. We're gonna. I think there's a decent amount of us, like 20 or 30, I think, and we're gonna all crack open 6-packs of Tales of Aria and get into it and film our matches and post them up on YouTube and stuff. So you can find that on my YouTube as well. You just search Fresh and Buds. I post all the audio of the shows, and I'll be posting that as well. But yeah, pretty exciting. But today for the Crack a Pack, I'll be doing Welcome to Wrath. Welcome to Wrath. I think it's Wraith with the E at the end. I've heard people say it both ways. So I'm gonna go with Wraith. I think it sounds cooler, and hopefully that's just right. We're gonna go through the picks. Imagine we're doing a little bit of limited or something, but we're also looking for some pretty awesome majestics or legendaries, which would be even cooler. So, or maybe a fabled. What? That sounds amazing. So let's get into the Crack Pack here. Get that nice sound going. So sounds very nice. Here we go. First out of the pack, we have Scar for a Scar blue. When you play Scar for a Scar, if you have less life than an opposing hero, it gains Go Again. The blue attacks for 2, has 2 defense. I mean, zero costed thing, no Go Again, or it has Go Again if less than the opposing hero. This is probably fine for limited. Blue Razor Reflex. I know the red Razor Reflex sees a lot of play. And it costs 1. Target sword or dagger weapon attack gains +1 attack. Or target attack action card with 1 or less gains +1, and if this hits, this attack gains Go Again. Obviously, I think the red one is where you want to be, but unlimited, I think Razor Reflex is still great. This is an attack reaction. It's got 2 defense, so. Next we got red Scour the Battlescape. It's a 0 costed generic action, 3 attack, 2 defense. You may put a card from your hand on the bottom of your deck. If you do, draw a card. If Scour the Battlescape is played from Arsenal, it gains Go Again. This is pretty awesome. It gives you that kind of sink below effect on a card. You want to play from the Arsenal and get full value. Next we got Pummel. This is a solid card, actually. And I'll be talking about it a little bit. I've been building Levia, and I think I like Pummel in the sideboard for the aggro matchups. Haven't put it in there yet, but the testing is still going on. Pummel is a attack reaction, cost 2. This is yellow. Choose 1. Target club or hammer weapon attack gains +3. or target attack action card with cost 2 or greater gains +3. And if this hits a hero, they discard a card. I like that a lot. We're gonna put the rares on the bottom so I don't see them. I just like the anticipation. Next we have Crush Confidence. This is a Guardian action. This is yellow, costs 3, has 6 attack, 3 defense. It has Crush. If it deals 4 or more damage to a hero, they lose all hero card effects and activated abilities until the end of their next turn. Crush is a very powerful mechanic. Next we got Savage Swing. This is the blue one, cost 1. As additional costs to play Savage Swing, discard a card at random. Hits for 5 and has 3 attack. This is really good in the brute decks. This is exactly what you want to be doing. You probably want the red or the yellow though. Next is we got Stonewall Confidence, which is I have the yellow one here. Costs 2. It's a Guardian action aura, defense for 3. It's got this guy. It looks like I think Balin or Dwalin. One of the dwarves from the Hobbit. The art looks just like him. It has go again. Cards you control with cost 3 or greater gain +3 defense while defending, and then you destroy it at the beginning of your action phase. Nice defensive cards, kind of what Guardian wants to do. Next we got Iron Song Response. Is a warrior attack reaction. Cost 0. This is the blue one. Has 3 defense. Reprise. If the defending hero has defended with a card from their hand this chain link, target weapon gains +1. I don't know if the blue one's where you want to be, but I definitely think the red one is pretty good. But I think it's fine. A good reaction in limited. Next we got Open the Center, which is this is the yellow one. Costs 2. It's 4 attack, 3 defense. Has combo. This is a ninja action. If Head Jab was the last attack this combat chain, Open the Center gains +1 attack, go again, and dominate. Yeah, if you're comboing off, this is a pretty solid card. So I don't know how often you get the combo pieces in limited, but if you're getting there, it seems pretty solid. Next we have Driving Blade, which is a warrior action. Cost 2. This is the red one. Has 3 defense. Your next weapon attack this turn gains 3, and go again. Go again. Yeah, warrior Dorinthia likes to really amp up their weapon and get in there. So seems like a pretty important piece. Whelming Gust Wave, the blue one, cost 0. Ninja action. 1 attack, 3 defense. If it has combo, if Surging Strike was the last attack, this combat chain, it gains +1, go again. If this hits, draw a card. I don't like the blue one as much, only coming in for 2. But, you know, I think Ninja does like a lot of that chip damage. But, you know, you're going to need the combo pieces for this to really be worth it. Next, we have our equipment, which is Ninja Equipment Arms. Breaking Scales. Has 1 defense, has Battle Worn. Has an attack reaction. Destroy it. Target attack action with combo gains +1. Pretty good for the Ninja deck. Next, we have Barraging Beatdown. Blue. This is a 0-costed brute action. It's 3 defense. Your next brute attack this turn gains, while this attack is defended by less than 2 non-equipment cards, it has +2 defense. And it has Intimidate. And go again. Yeah, it seems pretty good. It's pretty good in the brute deck. It definitely puts the pressure on the opponent. I like that card quite a bit. And next, we have another rare, Blessing of Deliverance. This is the blue Blessing of Deliverance. Cost 2. It's a 3 defense Guardian action aura. Let's go again. When it enters the arena, if you have a card with cost 3 or greater in your pitch zone, draw a card. At the beginning of your action phase, destroy Blessing of Deliverance, then reveal the top card of your deck. Gain 1 life for each card with cost 3 or revealed this way. So you only reveal one, so you can only gain up to one, right? That's interesting. Seems like a fine card. Oh, and then we got a foil Flock of the Featherwalkers, yellow. Um, and as additional cost to play Flock of the Featherwalkers, reveal a card from your hand with cost 1 or less. Create a Quicken token. The yellow ones, I think the red one is the more played one, but the foil Flock is pretty dope. Has 4 attack, 2 defense. Where I'm at on this pack, I'd probably pick. I think I like the Barraging Beatdown. I think that's a very powerful card. Definitely sound off in the on Twitter in the comments what you would take. I'm going to take a picture of this and we'll see how the people think. But yeah, just the crack pack and those rares and that foil will be going into the pile for the giveaway, which I just did one. I have to send that out still. It's going international. But yeah. Before we have Andy on, I did want to talk a little bit about Chain. Chain got a big ban. And it's been all the buzz. It seemed to have come out of nowhere. Personally, I built Chain because it was the best deck, and I did like playing it. It resonated the most with me. However, I understand why the ban that happened. They banned Seas of Agony, which, if you don't know what Seas of Agony is a 0-costed non-attack action. And Chain played the red, yellow, and blue version of this. That's how good it is. So the red said you can play it from your ban zone. It has Blood Debt. You can play it from your ban zone. Your next attack action with cost 2 or less deals 1 arcane damage, and then Seeds has Go Again. So basically, what Seeds allowed Chain to do is really go off from their banish zone, like a bunch of different things. Activates the Nebula Blade. It allows for like Riftbind to get really big. It allows for the Bounding Demagon to be able to be cast from the grave, or not the graveyard, the banish zone. So I understand, and it certainly has weakened Chain. And now there's talk that Chain's still powerful. I mean, I think I saw a Twitter thread today that someone was claiming that it's more powerful now without the Seeds, though I don't believe that at all. I would like to see that happen first. I'm a non-believer. I'll say it. But I could be totally wrong. I mean, maybe we were so focused on jamming those Seeds that we never really got to see the full potential of Chain, which is a point that I had made on Twitter. Is like, maybe the new Chain is going to be something so much more different than any sort of Chain we had ever seen, because we were so focused on that, the cards from the banish zone getting comboing off, that we never really saw the full potential. Now Chain's hero ability is very powerful. It putting cards into your banish zone with the Soul Shackle tokens is a very strong effect. It is it basically gives you extra cards in hand every turn, because a lot of these Blood Debt cards are playable from there. So I'll be interested to see what the next optimal build of Chain is. And I will probably build that. I mean, I have most of the Chain deck already, so I'll kind of move into that. But I did, start building Levia, because I have the Carrion Husk for Chain. So I was like, oh, you know what? Instead of really going all in on some new equipment, let's see what Levia does for me. And I've been testing with her quite a bit, and she's a lot of fun. And I kind of like the brute style of playing. So, yeah, we'll see what happens in the meta coming up. I mean, we have some limited callings before we have anything huge for Classic Constructed, but it is interesting. And, another thing, I almost forgot, Dustblade was preemptively banned from Tales of Aria. Dustblade is kind of like the opposite version of Dawnblade, obviously. It's a Runeblade weapon. And it seemed like, honestly, it was just a misstep. They said it was a misstep. They should have never printed that card. It is very powerful, and I think some people aren't really seeing how powerful it is. It's like let me just bring it up so I can. I don't want to. Um, say anything wrong about it, but yeah. So it is a two-handed weapon, Rune Blade, two attack, has a one costed attack once per turn. When you attack with Dustblade, if you played an attack action card and a non-attack action card this turn, put a +1 counter on Dustblade. At the beginning of your end phase, if you haven't played an attack action and a non-attack action card this turn, remove all +1 counters from Dustblade. It does not, honestly, it does not ask a whole lot for you to put those counters on. You could in Runeblade, you can easily put on a counter a turn, and soon that thing's attacking for like crazy amounts of damage. So I get it. Maybe I think maybe they should have said on the card at the beginning of your end phase, if you haven't played an attack action card and a non-attack action card and attacked with Dustblade, I think it should have required for it to attack. Because like even if you look at Dawnblade, the other side of it, it requires you to hit with Dawnblade. So that is something in the complete control of your opponent a lot of the times. Like they can choose to make sure Dawnblade doesn't hit. They can go really defensive on that turn, and they can and yeah, pretty much yes. That puts it into the hands of the opponent. And then for Dustblade, it's all on your turn, right? Like you have to play out your deck in a way that keep building the counters, and you can build your deck that way. So yeah, I think it's a good move. It's a shame for the people who are going to open up that card and it's going to be banned, but that's not to say that it won't be unbanned down the road, and still legal in Blitz. So, but which we'll be talking about a little bit. But I'm gonna have Andy on in a second here. You probably won't even know anything happened, but yeah. All right, I'm back with I guess Garbage Andy, Trash Andrew. How do you like to go by?
Either one, you know. You can just call me Andy if you want, but either any variant of garbage works for me.
Cool. All right, Andy. Well, thanks for coming on. I just wanted to, I had saw on Twitter that you started getting into the Flesh and Blood, and I added you, and yeah, I think it's safe to assume that we both are really enjoying the game.
Oh yeah, big time.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. But I figure I'd start with asking a little bit about yourself. First of all, who is Garbage Andy? You're on Twitch. You're obviously an online personality.
Yeah. So I am primarily a Twitch streamer. I stream Magic: The Gathering semi full time. I work full time, but I'm able to try and make the most of it because of my work from home schedule. I'm a professional video editor in New York, so I work on advertisements, and then when I have free time, usually after my day, I will stream some Magic. And I'm not really a card game guy. Like, I grew up playing Pokemon. I grew up collecting Magic when I was a kid, early 2000s, late 90s. Took several breaks from Magic, but I'm not really like a Hearthstone person, Storybook Brawl. Like, I'm just not really a TCG person. So Flesh and Blood has really grabbed me more than like any other card game has ever grabbed me other than Magic. And it's exciting for me because I've never been so into and in love with a game this quickly, especially a card game. So it's awesome. It kind of everything sort of snowballed. Like I have several friends that are getting into the game right now. Obviously, a lot of hype and press about it as well with all the callings going on. And I just kind of got into it, and then once it clicked, the obsession hit. I don't know if you can relate to that, but like there was a moment where I was sifting through cards, building some decks, and I was just like, okay, now I'm in now.
Oh
I
yeah,
get it.
I totally agree. I'm like you. I come from the Magic the Gathering side of things. I mean, I still play a lot of Magic, play a lot of Arena. When I have time with work, I like to do some drafts, some in person stuff. Obviously, the past 2 years have been made that a little difficult, um, but yeah, I felt the same way when I started seeing. I remember when they had announced Flesh and Blood. And I was, I was so busy with other stuff that I saw, I was like, oh, that's cool. They're announcing a new TCG. And then when I saw the callings, actually, I think when I saw the announcement for pro play and stuff like that, and I know that Magic had really stepped away from that, right? Wizards of the Coast really stepped away from pro play on a large scale. So that was kind of exciting. So I was like, I'll check this game out. And I felt the same way as you. I picked it up. I was like, wow, this game is awesome. It has a lot of depth. It has, it's very challenging. And yeah, I mean, so you come from Magic, but you say you don't do a lot of other TCGs. What are some games that outside of Magic and Flesh and Blood that you know that you've played over the years?
That's a good question. I used to actually be a variety streamer before I started like kind of main gaming Magic, which I've been doing since last October. So
Mm-hmm.
October 2020 was when I really started getting into Magic. I have a bunch of friends that are in that community and streamers that I met through them and got very involved in the community. It was kind of like when I got back into Magic was through Arena because I had taken several breaks in the early 2000s up until around 2015 when I did my first drafts at an LGS at FNM and pre-release.
Mm-hmm.
And then, took a break around 2016 after Kaladesh up until the pandemic happened. But like I said, I used to be a variety streamer, and I'm into a bunch of other stuff. If I'm not playing Magic, I love shooters. But I guess I don't really play the super popular ones. Like, I'm not really a Warzone guy or like an Apex guy, though I do like and respect both of those games. I'm more into like, I don't know. I played a lot of PUBG, a lot of CS:GO. I like Valorant a lot. I like Splitgate. I've been playing a good amount of. But I also, I don't know. I'm into a whole bunch of different things. I used to actually run a podcast myself that was about gaming, and it was kind of a general gaming podcast, not specifically to one game, and we would often survey a whole bunch of different things and play those. So I'm used to kind of playing a whole different array of things. And a lot of Nintendo stuff. Like, obviously during the pandemic, the Switch was pretty great.
Mm-hmm.
I just got to play a bunch of Animal Crossing early on, and then
As did I. As did I.
yeah, as did the world, and yeah, stuff like that. But I don't play a ton of Magic outside of stream either. Like, it's really kind of like my digital world. And I guess that's a good like segue into why I'm enjoying Flesh and Blood so much too, is like, so Magic for me has become very much a digital game.
Yeah.
It's and I think they're heading that way personally. Like, I think, they're recognizing the money to be had in how much they're making off of gems on Arena, and they're putting out sets like Historic Horizons, which are basically adding digital only mechanics and cards, which is something I'm personally not a big fan of, but I understand.
Yeah.
um,
I'm actually on the same page with you there.
yeah, so like, we have Magic kind of going the Hearthstonification route, in my opinion, where we've got more digital stuff, and I still love and enjoy Magic. I've been drafting so much. I'm primarily a limited player. I don't play a lot of constructed Magic at all. So I draft all the time on stream, but yeah, so they're going digital. I've been streaming that. I don't play it offline. Me and my brother grew up playing Magic together, so there's this connection that we've always had of kitchen table Magic and hanging out and playing. Both used to play Modern together, and now when we get together, the biggest thing me and my brother have gotten to do together has been Flesh and Blood. And it's
Nice.
reminded me so much of the early days of when I like first started getting into Magic. We built decks and we would sit down at the table and get excited about building things. It's just kind of that, but all over again for Flesh and Blood.
Yeah, and it is exciting, right? Because it's new, and obviously something new, and that's why, like Magic, whenever there's a new set, people get excited. But like this whole new game, this whole new like set of mechanics, and it is a professionally made game. Like, a lot of great intent is gone into the design of Flesh and Blood, and everything from the aesthetic of it to the gameplay is absolutely so impressive for a relatively independent studio. Legend Story, they're doing a great job, and I mean, it seems to me like it's only growing.
Oh
And
yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'm a lot like you. I only do limited on Magic, and I'll mess around with some constructed here and there, but I don't really have the desire to uh, do constructed in Magic like I do for Flesh and Blood. I think maybe because Magic is such a digital game at this point, like you said, that people are just jamming games to like the nth degree. When something comes out, it seems like formats are figured out in a matter of hours sometimes.
Yeah,
I don't know
absolutely.
if you feel the same way. And where Flesh and Blood, you're limited to the amount of physical games you could play, and that it feels like old school Magic, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes the meta adjusts at a much slower rate, and it's pretty cool. And yeah, I'm glad to hear that you feel all these ways. So, um, speaking of Flesh and Blood in general, what kind of heroes are speaking to you in general? What kind of strategies do you like when you're building these decks, checking them out?
All right. So I don't know how you feel about Ranger, but Ranger is my favorite.
I mean,
And
I like Ranger. I like Ranger, but it's
I
very
I
difficult.
I, I love Azalea so much. And like what's funny about it is one, I know she's not very strong.
Mm-hmm.
And two, it's really been interesting for me as a limited player and a player that doesn't typically like to do it this way. But with Azalea, I have really enjoyed the challenge of making this deck good. And I started with a blitz deck. I don't have a CC deck built. I've only gotten into the game like a month or so ago, to be honest. But I've gotten I'm full in. Like when I'm into Magic, I've been doing this since for 20 years with Magic. So
Mm-hmm.
when I get into a TCG, a new game, I'm in. So I'm already deep, building a bunch of decks and testing a bunch of things. But with Azalea, what's been interesting for me is like I love the gameplay of Ranger. I love being able to like put arrows in your arsenal and dominate with these big attacks and have like a bunch of different gameplay lines that make decision making really interesting. Um, so I've just been spending a ton of time optimizing, trying new builds, and my brother and I have been really playing and play testing together, as well as a few different friends of mine on Discord. Um, yeah, I'm just obsessed with the gameplay of Ranger. I've played several other heroes. I've played all the Blitz decks from Monarch, which I like. I mean, it's everyone. Rest in peace, but Chain was super fun.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
and Prism's cool, but not necessarily like my favorite play style. I do have a bunch of I have like Phantasmal Footsteps and her weapon that I want to build. So I kind of want to build Prism at some point, but I'm not super into her right now. But yeah, so I have both Azalea and Lexi built right now. I opened a case of first edition Tales of Aria. The first video of which is on my YouTube channel, but I haven't. I'm editing currently the last three that are going to go out in the next like week or so.
Very nice.
And the set's out tomorrow officially, which is cool. So everyone's going to be cracking their boxes. But I've opened a case, and I'm really kind of just building. I've built Lexi, but I'm going to build each of the new heroes using cards only, almost like a sealed, but kind of like a set constructed format where I'm building each of them with only cards from the new set to get really familiar with them. And Lexi's been a blast so far, and she's pretty different than Azalea. Like it's a very different. It's a lot. There's a couple ways you can build Lexi, obviously with the lightning and the ice additions as elemental.
Mm-hmm.
So I built lightning Lexi today actually, and I've been jamming and testing this deck out, and I really really like it. So I'm probably gonna lean more into that, just because yeah, I like Ranger a lot. But what about you? What do you like to play?
Well, I did build Chain, and I recorded the intro to this prior to us hopping on the call, and I had talked about the Chain banning Seeds of Agony. I did really like Chain. I think when I started playing Flesh and Blood, I bought all the Blitz decks from Monarch,
Mm-hmm.
and I messed around with all of them. And Chain spoke to me the most, probably because I'm a Magic player. I realized the value of like dredge decks. I was like, this seems awesome, so I built
Yeah.
that deck, and obviously the band's gonna hurt it quite a bit. Though I mean I am hearing that maybe there are some builds that are still gonna be pretty powerful, and I said this at the top of the show, but his hero effect is absolutely bonkers. I think that people will find a way to make him still good.
Yeah.
But when I saw that banning, I actually was like, oh, you know what? I was like upset for like 30 seconds, and then I was like, all right, well, what's next? And I'm sitting here, I'm looking down at my carrion husk, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna build Levia. I kind of like the brute style play, and another podcast that does flesh and blood stuff is the Attack Action podcast, which I had Taylor from that podcast on the show, and their other co-host Isaac had played Levia at Vegas, which I thought was a bold move, and I think he ended up going 4-3 on day one. Not
Nice.
ideal, but I was like, I mean, that seems pretty dope, and we'll see. Obviously he was playing against a lot of chains in the end at the top tables there, so um, I think that maybe Levia has some room to grow. It does present, I think, a lot like Ranger, a lot of interesting decisions. Um, and I like that, and I think it presents interesting decisions for the opponent when they're defending, and I like that because I nothing I like more is challenging my opponent to make the right decision.
Right.
It like the old Magic the Gathering adage that math is for blockers. So
Yeah.
I definitely like that style of play, but yeah, but to your point about Ranger's really interesting, and actually Isaac from that same podcast, he actually top eighted a Road to Nationals with Azalea, and I guess
That's
he's
awesome.
he's kind of I guess maybe they're out in Northern California. I guess he's the resident Ranger player out there, but um, which is really interesting. I know that I think with Ranger and I think with Lexi especially, I think it's only a matter of time before someone figures out how these decks really need to work and the correct strategy, because the power is really there, and
Hmm.
so it is interesting. I mean, it's I like to hear that you like Azalea. I think Azalea is pretty awesome too. I especially like Azalea since I opened a what's the legendary helmet
Oh, I
cross.
have it right here.
Yeah.
Skullbone Cross Wrap.
Yeah, since I opened that, I'm like, I really like Azalea, and I hope I hope that card goes up in value.
It's
But
a fantastic card.
it
It's so good.
it really is. It's like actually one of my favorite arts in the game. I think it's just
Yeah, same.
so badass. But yeah, it's so I guess one final question for you before we get to the main topic is what would you say the future of Flesh and Blood is for you?
Ooh, another great question. So like I mentioned, I'm mostly a streamer, and I stream on Twitch, and I think it's very interesting when it comes to paper TCGs. It's really hard to digest games like this, and I still think we haven't really cracked the code with like um, how to broadcast and how to show live gameplay with card games.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, growing up, I used to watch Pro Tour coverage and classic videos of LSV and Marshall Sutcliffe commentating and just like Magic gameplay and coverage was always fascinating to me, even though I didn't always know what was going on, which is part of the trouble with it, I think. Um, but I think something that I've been really enjoying and excited about has been making YouTube content for it. I think a lot of folks are looking to learn about this game, learn how to play, learn what it's about, just kind of anything. People are just, and myself included. This is why I've started to make content, is because there's a need for it,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's not a lot of flesh and blood content out there, and there's not a lot of, um, you know, there's not a ton of people really showing how much this game has to offer. So I've been loving making YouTube content. I made my quick start guide, which is under 10 minutes, or it's 10 minutes long. It teaches you how to play the game and kind of the overview of the game. And I think that's like I made that basically for my friends in my community because I started talking about this game and I'm streaming Magic and I'm like, guys, I'm really into this new thing. And they're like, yeah, I don't really get it. And I'm like, all right, well, hold on. And I spent a couple days and I edited this video. So, hopefully that can get more people into it as well. But for me, yeah, I mean, making more content. I'm excited to continue producing content for Flesh and Blood. Playing it, I've never been a huge competitive player. I love limited. I think limited is great because it always feels fair. It always feels, or to the most part,
Yeah.
draft at least in my opinion is usually the most fair format.
Absolutely.
Because everyone's on an even playing field. There's an interesting level of skill involved when you're having to make decisions and read a table. I just think it's a very interesting and fun format. So I would love to participate in more things like that, but overall, I'm not the hugest competitive player. I do like to build decks and advocate for people playing the game, but yeah, I mean, I'm not going to be trying out here to, road to nationals or anything like that. Even though I do have some friends who are definitely already headed to nationals.
Nice.
And potential teammates, to test decks with and stuff eventually. But personally, for me, I'm like, I'm a content creator first. I like, making people laugh, have a good time, and making people see how much I love the game, and hopefully they can get into it. So that's my priority for it, and just kind of, I'm the biggest appeal, or one of the biggest appeals for me right now, is just how new the game is, how much of a need for content like this podcast and videos online there are.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's exciting to be on the ground floor. It's been out for almost 2 years now.
Yeah, almost 2 years.
And so there's obviously 5 sets or whatever that are out now, but it still feels very new. And the beauty of each class, getting new cards per set is kind of great too. So you always feel like you can stay on top of things for your decks and what you're excited about. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm going to be doing with the game.
Cool. Well, I do like the point that you said about like even watching like gameplay of a paper game, right? And you mentioned LSV and Marshall Sutcliffe. I myself am a huge Limited Resources fan. It's one of my favorite podcasts for Magic content. And those guys, there's nobody. I mean, Marshall Sutcliffe is one of the greatest commentators maybe ever. For something like that. I mean, he's got a voice for radio, and he does a great job of laying things out, and that's not always the case with a lot of other creators. And I think it takes some practice, but I think that you're right that there is a need for content. And part of the reason I started this podcast myself, I was like, what, I want to talk about this game. A lot of my Magic friends, I don't get to see them as much, so I don't get to get that fix of Flesh and Blood that this game I've fallen in love with. So if I'm talking about it, and if I create a community, I'm gonna get that fix, and that's my goal personally. And it sounds like it's a lot of yours as well. And yeah, I mean, I think the having the amount of content being put out in the future sounds like a positive thing for the game, and because as more people discover it and want to play it, they're going to be searching for stuff. They're going to be like, oh, I want to learn more about it. And if there's something there, that's only good, and the more the merrier, honestly. So yeah, it's very exciting. But yeah, man. So I wanted to get to our main topic. So you said that you're not as much of a competitive player, and
Right.
And one of the biggest things that people have said about Flesh and Blood is, what's the casual format? What's the EDH? What's the commander that's going to keep this game alive? And that's one thing that outside of Arena for Magic is commander keeps paper Magic being bought in a way,
Mhm.
especially over the past 2 years, because people were playing a lot. People play a lot of commander, understandably so. It's not really my jam, but I can see how it can be. So, so obviously the casual formats currently in Flesh and Blood, I would say, is Blitz to a certain extent. Obviously, there's some more competitive Blitz playing going on. And for the listener at home who doesn't know what Blitz is, every hero has a young version of themselves. It has 20 health, same amount of intellect, so you're still drawing the same amount of cards, but 20 health, and then you play a 40 card deck, and instead of being able to play 3 of each copy, you get to play 2. So it sounds like you play a lot of Blitz at this point, right?
Yeah.
And do you find that that is an optimal way to play, or you're waiting to get into the classic constructed side of things?
So for me, it's there's a few reasons why I'm really into Blitz. First, I think that it's a great way to get into the game. I recommend players who are new to just pick up a Blitz deck. There's precons.
Mm-hmm.
You can get the ones from Monarch and now the ones from Tales of Aria, which are affordable, and they're just a great way to learn how to play the game. And they're pre-con built, so you don't really have to worry about deck building, and you get a feel for it. And another reason for me personally is I just don't have a ton of time. I work full time as an editor. I create content on the side, and when I sit down to play Flesh and Blood with my brother or friends on Discord, I don't really have a ton of time to play a really long-winded classic constructed game. And certain decks obviously can go faster than others, and if my friend's playing Control, I might be like, hey, I don't want to sit through a 40-minute game while you're waiting to kill me with your Teklo pistol or whatever. So like I get that classic constructed isn't necessarily always a long commitment, but for me Blitz is very fun because as like a Magic player in general, when it comes to constructed, I generally prefer playing aggro decks and like faster formats. I like to be able to jam through a couple different games and have fun doing those sorts of strategies. Another reason why I love Flesh and Blood is because it's very combat oriented. And for Magic, I'm not really big into control, counter spells, things like that. I just find that sort of stuff unfun to play against.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with it. It's been the game for ages. I think, obviously there's a place for it. But for me personally, I like, hey, I'm going to combat with a dominated, 12 attack arrow, as opposed to like I'm passing the turn and then, I'm saying no on your turn. So I really enjoy Blitz because it's something that I can sit down, jam a couple games and be done when I have my free time and feel like I had fun. And the games are usually pretty close, depending if you're playing, I got my butt kicked by Kano. My friend has a really, really good Kano deck, and I was playing Azalea, and it was just like, okay, I die on my own turn for, a Blazing Aether hitting me for freaking 20 damage, and I'm like, all right, I guess I just lose.
Yeah, that's
so
the fly too close to the sun strategy, Kano.
It's hard. It's a very hard deck to play against, especially when I don't have like an Arcanite Skull Cap or something to block a heavy amount of arcane damage every turn. So yeah, tangent, but I love Blitz because it works for me, my schedule, my time, and I think it's a great jumping in point for people.
Absolutely, I agree. I had started with the Blitz decks as myself, and I found that the best to be the best way. It got me hooked, and it was the best way for me to introduce friends of mine to the game. And yeah, like you said, really quick, easy. Yeah, the classic constructed games could go quite long. Especially when you don't have time, you don't want to be doing that as much, which
Right.
I understand. And no, I agree. And I do think it actually it fills a pretty nice role for the casual player in Flesh and Blood. And I think it is great for beginners and people just trying to jam games alike. I think the only weak point of Blitz as a casual format is I think the what's the word? Something that Commander does really well in Magic is it doesn't allow for a lot of I guess imaginative deck building, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
There's like the Timmies of the world aren't really gonna go crazy for Blitz like they would an EDH deck, and now that brings us to the other casual format that is officially a format for Flesh and Blood is Ultimate Pit Fight. Do you know anything about Ultimate Pit Fight?
I know about it. I have not played any Ultimate Pit Fight, but I think it's intriguing and potentially, might fill the niche for EDH players trying to kind of learn and cross over.
Yeah. I think it is close. I think it is specifically what they're trying to do with it. Multiplayer format. I don't love. There's one specific rule where you have to either you can only attack players to your left or right on the table. I don't know if that's necessarily necessary for the game. Maybe it's a flavor thing. It's like this is a pit fight. Why would you fight someone far away from you? I don't know, but
Yeah.
yeah. So that's a kind of the closest thing to a commander type format that they have. Now I do have some ideas, and I want to run them by you.
Sure.
Um, so with these blitz decks, you get your like the tokens of the heroes in the packs have a young version and your regular old classic constructed version. Now, I think if they wanted to create a like a specific multiplayer casual format, I think it would not be that hard to create elder versions of these heroes, if that makes sense. And one way they could do that, is maybe a higher life count. I don't know, 40 or 50. Like go up to 50, and I think being able to have a higher intellect, start with more cards in hand. Obviously they have the intellect and health there for design space specifically, so that's something that they can play with. And then maybe you can alter um, the hero effects to have some kind of multiplayer, um, I guess, type of effect rather than just specific to like one opponent. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Totally. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I
So
think
I'm
that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm like looking at a Reinar young hero right now, and four intellect, 20 health. So maybe you look at like maybe 5 or 6 intellect, 50 health, or something like that, and then his effect says whenever you discard a card with 6 or more power during your action phase, intimidate. So and right there, you could be like, if you discard a card with 6 or more attack during action phase, intimidate to all heroes, or something like that, or each hero has to intimidate for the next each turn until whenever, something like that. I don't know. That seems like something that would allow for kind of some fun multiplayer stuff. Someone plays um, a hero that has like something really annoying. I mean, even Reinar seems kind of annoying in that way. Um,
Yeah.
that everybody starts targeting them. The politics get going, and that's what people really seem to love about Commander.
Hmm.
And like I
Yeah.
said, I'm not the biggest fan of that. I just want to play my game. I don't need politics going on. It's like you attack
Yeah.
me, I'll attack him, kind of thing. But that being said, just because it's not my bag doesn't mean it won't be a lot of other people's bags. Does it?
Absolutely.
Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense. I think that's a really interesting idea, and it's cool because there's a lot of room for design, innovation with this game since it's so young. Like we're still seeing a bunch of these subclasses come out with elementals now. We have the ice and the earth and lightning effects, and of course we have shadow and light from Monarch as well, which is really cool. So I think as the game keeps coming out, we're going to see a lot more of these sorts of like subclasses and building, and then eventually maybe they start to broaden their horizons on more formats. I think, and this isn't to shut down your idea at all. I
Mm-hmm.
do think a big selling point of Flesh and Blood is that it's hero based. So I think
Absolutely.
in a lot of ways, Commander players are already incentivized to come over because I mean, I love Commander. I've played a bunch of it on my stream. I have a bunch of friends who are into it. I prefer CEDH, like competitive, because I
Mm-hmm.
just love the idea of playing like the most high powered cards ever and just killing people on turn one. Like I play Godo CEDH, which is it's mono red with Helm of the Host if you're a Magic player, and it's just infinite combat to kill the whole table.
Oh, I love that.
Um, it can have a turn one. I've routinely won with that deck, like turn two, turn three. It's very fun. But anyway, yeah, I mean, as somebody who plays games like Overwatch as well, another a shooter, but a PC game, hero-based games are popular for a reason. They bring a sense of identity. They bring a sense of relationship between the player and the character. People can get into somebody who they relate to, or they look up to, or think is cool, or think is interesting. And so that's kind of a lot of the reason why people are into to EDH to begin with, right? You take a hero and you go, I love this card. Maybe some people play them because they're powerful, whatever. I'm looking at you, chain players. But other people might play them because they think they're flavorful or just really cool. Like, I think Azalea is badass. I love the idea of just this really cool ranger who's just like roguelike and sneaking around and has these cards, and she's like she's just a very like interesting, brutal character. And I just love the flavor of her cards and just the look of her character. And so I get that enjoyment out of it, as well as the gameplay of thinking it's really fun. So I would say to Commander players, if you are looking for a reason to come over, like being a hero-based game is already a big reason enough, right? Like,
Absolutely.
you can pick one out you like, and just go to town, build different decks that you are interested with them, and try them out and stick with them for each set.
Yeah, actually, that's a great point, and I totally agree. I mean, it is. I mean, like I've seen, the visceral, like chain player reaction to that banning, like that, people are just like they really love their hero, man, and understandably so. I mean, it is very much like EDH already, and I think it does really bring over that kind of same kind of thing, and that's the nice thing, right? So if they come out with this, like if they decide to get behind something like, Elder, Flesh and Blood, whatever, they make these Elder heroes. They make Elder versions of these heroes people are already in love with, right? And
Mhm.
and people be like, oh my god, yeah, now I can have this classic constructed version of Rhinar, and I can also have this, multiplayer format of Rhinar as well. And like, I'm all in on Rhinar. They put up a merch store, buying Rhinar t-shirts, stuff like that.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
and then alongside with that, because they do these supplemental sets, right? These like Crucible of War was kind of like this, not a booster draft set, supplemental set. Like, why not put out a supplemental set for that kind of multiplayer format kind of stuff? This is obviously probably down the road. I think a lot of people are a little, I guess, a little negative when it comes to them saying, oh, it doesn't have the multiplayer format, blah blah blah. I when did I don't even know the history of EDH, but how long did it take Magic to be around before we had something like EDH?
Hmm.
It was probably, I mean, at least not until the late '90s, I would say. So we have some time on on Flesh and Blood for that to happen. But um,
Absolutely.
I have one more idea I thought would be kind of a cool thing that I want to throw at you here, Andy. Um, you know, what if there's some kind of format, right, where you can, it's like a tag team deck. You pick two heroes and have one combined deck. I don't know where I would go with that, but right, let's say you were like, oh, I want to do Azalea and Viscerai together. They seem like a cool tag team, and then you build some combination deck. It's almost like a, I don't know, like a dual colored deck in a way, for like in Magic ways.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know.
yeah, that's a really sweet idea. I mean, it could, you could even get more specific into it and be like, they have to share either a subclass or a class. So you play, Lexi, Azalea combo.
Oh yeah,
You
true,
build
true.
you build one mutual deck, and then maybe you have like a sideboard that you can access during the game, of cards that you can swap in and out using. And I would probably add a tax to everything, right? Like, so two pitch points to switch your hero at any point on your turn or something like that.
Oh, that
Um,
seems pretty cool. Like a
yeah,
legit tag team.
yeah, like a legit tag team where you're switching them in and out, and then that accessing that sideboard could then be like a another element of strategy added to, well, I'm going to use Azalea this turn, but next turn I want to use Lexi so I can get the, benefit off her flipping her card in her arsenal. Just having this dynamic gameplay. I mean, it would overcomplicate it into oblivion and make my head hurt.
Yeah.
But I think it's an interesting idea. Like as soon as you said it, I'm like, ooh, that's cool. Like I would be down for that. Yeah, like one mutual deck with like a, a second arsenal maybe, or like something to access cards that can benefit you for switching in and out heroes.
Yeah,
That's cool. I like that.
I do like that, and I like the tag team, switching in and out kind of mechanic. You'd almost have, you have Azalea out, right, and then you have Lexi in, like, would essentially be treated like in a command zone, right, in Commander.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, I don't really think I need Azalea for this part of the game based on how the game state is. I need to push out Lexi, stuff like that. And obviously there's a lot of cool things you can do with that, like with other classes. You would have Viserai and Chain, which, obviously, two very powerful, and even Briar seems to be very powerful based on what people are saying. So
Yeah.
it's just something. It's, obviously I think we're a little ways away from us really needing or Flesh and Blood really needing these formats, but I think it's good to kind of have that front of mind, and I think a lot of these casual formats tend to happen on the kitchen tables, and these seem like, maybe people start building something like this, and in a world where we have Discord communities and Twitch chats and Twitter threads, I think there could be a lot of momentum around stuff like this, and especially with people already really passionate about Flesh and Blood. But yeah, that's just kind of where I'm at with it.
Absolutely, man. I mean, you look at EDH, it came about because people wanted to, and a ton of other Magic formats came about because of people wanting to play the way they want to play. And I have no doubt that, as Flesh and Blood continues to become more popular, people get their hands on the cards and enjoy it and, start wanting to innovate with it, that other casual formats will arise, formats, officially sanctioned by the game will arise. That's the beauty of it, again, being such an early adapter to the game, is that there's so much that can still happen with it. And I think that's really exciting.
It is very exciting to be. I mean, Flesh and Blood just in general, it's really capturing the hearts of a lot of people, and I don't think it's for no good reason. I think it is a great game, and yeah, to your point about hero based games, and people get to really go all in on something they're really passionate about, and it is exciting. But yeah, man, I wanna thank you for coming on the podcast. I know everybody's got busy schedules right now, and yeah, I really appreciate it. I enjoyed your content, and I actually the first thing I saw on Twitter of yours was the intro to Flesh and Blood, which I watched, and I thought, I was like, this is great, because a lot of the times when I don't have time to explain what Flesh and Blood is to people, I like to find nice, simple, straightforward videos that I can send to people, like you said, with your community and your friends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. I'm always happy to meet more people in the community, and it's pretty amazing, honestly, the snowball of, I mean, I guess it's the internet, right? It's like we're all out here, and like eventually we connect somehow, but like, it's pretty amazing how in such a short time of, falling in love with this game and kind of ramping up my involvement with it and the community, how many people I've met and how many people I've, gotten interested in the game or have seen gotten interested in the game. And I just love seeing people's love for it. I love the love, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I find myself getting a little frustrated when, or initially I was a little frustrated, like when the chain ban happened, people were freaking out and having these knee-jerk reactions, or I guess not chain, Seeds of Agony.
Yeah.
And And I was like, well, why are people getting so upset? And then I realized, like, well, they really care, right? I mean, I've seen it in Magic forever, right? These knee-jerk reactions mean that people are, like, really invested in it. And that's a good sign. I had to tell myself, this is a good sign. People care about this game. They want to see it succeed. And, you know, I understand the doubt sometimes, but, you know, I think it was a really good sign, you know, that there is a community that, you know, is vocal, and
Absolutely.
and they've been enjoying content, and I agree with you. You know, ever since I started this podcast, people have been very welcoming and, you know, very open to my content, which feels great. And yeah, it's a great community, great game, and I'm glad you're part of it, and glad you've come on to the podcast with me, and I hope that we can collaborate in the future. And yeah, but first of all, please plug all your socials, your Twitch channel, your YouTube channel, do all that so people can find you.
Cool, man. All right. Yeah, so you can find me at twitch.tv/garbageandy. No underscore there, but if you go to like Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok, there's an underscore between the trash and the Andrew. So garbage_Andy. I stream like 4 days a week, usually Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Lately, I've been recording YouTube videos on Thursdays and Fridays, and kind of going from there. But yeah, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is guaranteed. If you want to come watch some Magic drafts, I might start throwing some Flesh and Blood content in the rotation. I have some gameplay videos planned potentially for my YouTube channel, which you can just search Garbage Andy there too. And just a lot more content to come. Like I'm really psyched to just like get in now with this game and just make a ton of content. So like even after this podcast, I'm gonna record a few more videos and start editing them together for the YouTube. But thanks again for having me, man. I'm really glad that you asked me to come on, and I'm excited to be a part of the community and continue meeting folks and playing the game.
Yeah, man. Well, thank you again. I have to get to work, but I appreciate it. And you know, for the listeners who need to find me, I'm at twitter.com/freshbudspod. You can search Fresh and Buds on YouTube for the I guess semi-visual sometimes versions of the podcast, and you can just listen on there as well. We're available on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcast. And yeah, I'll be getting my Tales of Aria boxes in the mail, hopefully the beginning of next week, and we'll be talking some of that. And yeah, have a good one. See ya.